Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, which is brought to you in partnership between Integrity Systems Company and SA's Department of Primary Industries and Regions. My name is Cherie Young, and I'm the Communications Manager here at ISC, and I will be your host for this webinar this evening. This webinar is designed to help you better understand the red meat integrity system and how it works to ensure our industry continues to produce quality red meat that is safe to eat and fully traceable. We thank you very much for taking the time out on this evening to join us and for also submitting all your questions that you've put through during the registration process for the webinar. We will be doing our best to put those answers into the Q&A box this evening. But in the meantime, I just wanted you to know that we have representatives on hand from ISC and from the SA government ready to answer your questions. So if you have extra questions that come to your mind as we're going through all the material tonight, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and the team can get onto answering those for you. This session, just want to point out, is also being recorded, and in the coming days, we'll be sending out an email pack with the video link to the webinar series, plus the slides that will take you through tonight and some other resources to, support the material that we're going to cover. So just as a bit of an overview, I'm going to start this evening's webinar just with a brief overview of about integrity systems and what the programs are that we operate and how they work together. Then we'll be joined by Elizabeth Bradley, who's ISC's Quality and Compliance Manager, and Elizabeth's going to take you through the Livestock Production Assurance Program, and this will include an overview of a new self-assessment process that's going to be coming out soon, and also an overview of the harvested rangeland goat module, which is also a new feature of LPA that's coming out soon as well. Then after Elizabeth's finished, George Basher from ISC, he's our operations analyst, very familiar with the NLIS database and how to use it. He's going to then take you on a live demonstration of how to use the NLIS, including really, key features, including property to property transfers and other key features that are commonly used. And then at the end of the evening, we'll be joined by Denise Rendell from SA's Department of Primary Industries and Regions. And Denise is going to give you a SA-specific update on everything to do with sheep and goat electronic ID rollout, specific for your state. So there's quite a lot in it, but don't forget, put your questions in the chat in the Q&A box. And we've got George, Elizabeth, Callum from our customer service team, who are all really knowledgeable across the products, plus Denise and Tara from the SA team, ready to answer and help you out. So pop the questions in, and they'll also be included in the email pack at the end, all the answers that we'll email out to you. So just before I move on, a bit of a background. Integrity Systems Company, in case you didn't know, it was established in 2017, and it was formed with the chief goal or task of managing Australia's red meat integrity system. So the key focus is on-farm assurance, animal identification and traceability. And ensuring that we meet these key requirements means Australia will continue to access its global markets, which is obviously really important. ISC is guided by Safe Meat, which is a partnership between industry and government, and also the Supply Chain Task Force, which is a group made up of representatives from the red meat peak industry councils. This slide, the next one, I was just going to quickly show you as a diagram, just in case you weren't aware of where ISC fits into the picture. So we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia. And so together with MLA, we service the industry with our programs that we operate. So the next slide, just to show you a little bit more, a bit of a deeper dive into the programs. So we have two key programs, the NLIS and LPA. So the NLIS, the National Livestock Identification System, is Australia's system for the identification and traceability of cattle, sheep and goats. It reflects Australia's commitment to biosecurity and food safety and provides Australia with a competitive advantage in a global market. All animals are identified with an accredited NLIS device or tag from their property of birth. And as the animals are bought, sold, and moved through the supply chain, each movement is recorded in the NLIS database. And using this information, the NLIS is able to provide a life history of an animal's movements. So the system is underpinned by state and territory legislation, and it enhances our ability to track livestock, which becomes incredibly important during disease and food safety incidents. So the current NLI system has existed now for over 20 years, and a major project is underway right now to develop a new and more user-friendly system. So this new system is due to be delivered in June 2026, and it will offer a vastly improved user experience. So we're really looking forward to bringing that out. Now, the other key program that ISC operates is the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA, and it's the on-farm assurance program, which underpins our market access. So again, incredibly important. LPA covers on-farm management for biosecurity, animal welfare and food safety, and accreditation with that gives you the tick of assurance for your product from yourself as the producer all the way through to the consumer. And again, it demonstrates the professionalism of our industry. And again, this underpins our market access. So then tucked in the middle, you've got the NVD or the eNVD, which are legal documents which are used to communicate the food safety and treatment status of the animals as they move through the supply chain. Now, what connects all of this together is the Property Identification Code, or a PIC, and these are allocated by your state or territory department to identify a livestock producing property. So you will need to have a PIC to register for either the NLIS or LPA. And incorporating that PIC into both those programs is the only way that traceability and the food safety can be managed nationally. So for an industry that exports such a high proportion of product overseas, the assurance of a strong and effective national system is paramount. So this next slide just gives you a bit of a high level of integrity systems objectives. So what are our objectives? That the LPA and the NLIS are linked through a property identification code system to bring that quality, that food safety and that animal welfare together. That the NVDs or the eNVDs are used to prove that the LPA requirements have been met as stock move through the chain. And having these declarations and additional attachments digitally held in an eNVD means that they stay with the animals along their journey and they are not lost, damaged, or become hard to read, as can be the case with paper forms. Another objective is that all our LPA accredited producers are supported in running their farm businesses in accordance with the LPA requirements, and that ultimately Australian red meat remains safe to eat, of high quality and in demand all over the world. Now, top 3 integrity takeaways. There is a lot to cover tonight, so I'm going to leave you with my top 3 integrity takeaways before I hand over to Elizabeth. So number 1, be sure to renew your LPA accreditation when it falls due. You will be notified in advance by letter, email, or SMS, so you'll be aware when you need to re-accredit. You can use this process as an opportunity to make sure you're clear on what the LPA requirements are, and this can include having your biosecurity plan ready and all your records up to date. And soon you'll have access to a new report, a personalised recommendations report, which will give you further information about other activities you could take. But Elizabeth will expand more on that in her section. Now, top takeaway number 2. By keeping your accreditation up to date means you can also then easily access the NVDs or the free eNVD system. Now, the eNVD system has undergone a number of improvements over the last year or so to make it more accessible to different types of users. So we're really encouraging everyone to give it a go. It is also possible to SMS or email submitted consignments. And yeah, so it does have a lot of benefits. We really encourage you to try it. It's always important to remember to completely and accurately complete your NVDs or ENVDs. Now, my last top tip is to make sure you use a species-specific NLIS approved device to identify your livestock. The big one here is you need a sheep device for sheep and a goat devices for goats. So I think this is really key because sometimes this can get really confusing. And also, it's the receiver's responsibility to make sure your livestock are transferred on the NLIS. It's another big one to remember. But it's now time for me to hand over to Elizabeth. So I will do so. And please don't forget to pop your questions in the Q&A as they come to mind.
Thanks.
Elizabeth, all yours.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA for short, and a little bit about what accredited producers need to do, how it fits together with the NLIS system, and a little bit about the changes that are coming to the program, which are going to make it even better. So we'll dig right in and firstly talk around why LPA is important. It's always important to understand why we have it and what it does. Effectively, LPA helps us maintain market access. So when we're exporting our meat overseas and also, selling domestically as well, it helps provide that assurance around food safety for consumers and help with those trade deals. So it's helping support a $74.5 billion industry, which puts money in your pocket when you sell your livestock. So that's a real value of LPA in terms of expanding and maintaining our access to these markets and our ability to have a really great industry. So that's a key value proposition around LPA and why we put so much emphasis on it. It also does lots of other things around biosecurity on farm and animal welfare, as well as that food safety and traceability aspects as well. So always good to remember why we have LPA and what it does for us. So we are making improvements to LPA to make sure that it's robust and continues to do what it needs to do, and as requirements for our customers change overseas as well. So we've been working really hard for the last 12 months on new standards and rules for the program, and the new rules will take effect on the 1st of September. So you'll get some emails and things like that if you're LPA accredited coming through shortly. The rules are really exciting because it lets us do a heap of new things that are going to make the program even better. The first is the self-assessment tool, which I'll talk about in just a second. The second is the ability to add voluntary modules into LPA. So this doesn't mean that everyone has to do these modules. It just means if you want to opt in to do this assurance work, you can. And that can help you with marketing and different things. We've got the first module will be the harvested rangeland goat module, which I'll also talk about in just a little bit as well. And we can expand that out in the future to cover off on lots of different things around sustainability and different welfare aspects as well. We also have the ability to use the ENVD for additional declarations, which we currently, it's a little bit clunky at the moment, but streamlining how we can do that, and also how we can interact with other compliance programs that are in industry to streamline compliance and reduce duplication for producers as well. We've also done a heap of other stuff around streamlining definitions and making sure processes are really clear and making sure we administer the program really efficiently to make it just easier to interact and robust enough to support what we're trying to achieve with the red meat industry. Now, the self-assessment tool is by far probably the biggest notable change you'll see around the program. So starting on the 1st of September, we'll have a new way to complete re-accreditation, or new accreditation if you're coming into the program for the first time. It basically replaces the multiple choice quiz that you would go through with a self-assessment type tool. So it's not an audit by any means. It's there to help you be more educated and aware about the requirements. It also spits out at the end of it a customized guidance report for you to use, and it will give you all the links and resources that you might need to be better conforming to the LPA requirements as well. So definitely an improvement in terms of the user experience in working through that tool as well. So speeding up how long it takes, and also just a nicer experience in engaging with that process as well. So we're really excited to see it happen. And next time you're due for accreditation, it'll pop through after September 1. So keep an eye out for that next time you're accredited, because we're very excited to see it come to life. The other exciting thing that we're doing is the introduction of a new voluntary module, and this is to support the harvested rangeland goats continuing to move without an eID from the 1st of January next year. So this has been a lot of work with the goat industry and with the state governments as well to try and find this pathway for harvested rangeland goats. So within this module, the definition of harvested rangeland goats hasn't changed. It's still from a wild state, not resulted as a managed breeding program, and no animal husbandry procedures. It does include the registered goat depots as well. So if they're trading harvested rangeland goats without tags, they have to be involved in this module as well to continue to do that. And being accredited in this module, you require to be LPA accredited, and then you have to have approval from your state department, so South Australia in this instance. So if you apply for the module in LPA, the state government will actually approve that application to make sure that the eID tag-free pathway is known to them as well. So it's very exciting and open to harvested rangeland goat operators, which is really good opportunity there. The harvested rangeland goats module, like I said, we'll have it open from October for applications in the module to get ready for the start date of the 1st of January. The key change with this is that there'll be 2 versions of a goat NVD. So you'll have the regular goat NVD, which is red if you have the books, and there's changes to that to remove the tag-free questions. And there'll be a new NVD available to people who are approved and accredited in the harvested rangeland goat module, which talks and asks questions specifically about the harvested rangeland goats. So there'll be 2 NVDs, and that's how it will work in terms of tag-free movements on the new harvested rangeland goat NVD. The diagram up on screen just shows that you need to be LPA accredited first before you add on or opt into the harvested rangeland goat accreditation. You make your application through your LPA account online. That application will then be sent to the state government automatically for review. And then the state government will review that application and make sure that, yes, you're in a harvested rangeland goat area or eligible to be participating. Once they approve it, it'll then come back through to the LPA system, give you an alert, and then you can log in, make a payment, and then finalise that accreditation, which will then enable you to buy those harvested rangeland goat NVDs or use the eNVD system for that moving forward. So that's the process, and we'll hear more about it in about September when we start out the dedicated communication channels if you're trading in harvested rangeland goats. Now moving on to the baseline requirements for the Livestock Production Assurance Program. So this is the requirements you need to do if you're LPA accredited around those food safety, biosecurity and animal welfare requirements and those NVDs and completion of those. So I'm going to talk you through at a high level the key things to be aware of what you need to do to meet these requirements under LPA. So the first is all around food safety. So we're actually producing livestock to turn into meat, which we then eat. So food safety is critical as consumers. The first requirement is around the risks on your property and minimising contamination of your animals from the property and just what's around. So the key things here is to have a property risk assessment completed and also have a farm map with those risk areas highlighted as well to meet your LPA requirements. Next is around your animal treatment. So again, the key things here is around minimising the risk of chemical residues in the meat once they hit processing. So keeping really accurate and full records of all your animal treatments is really important. And of course, following labels, adhering to withhold periods. Those records are really important because what they do is they translate into your NVDs if you're consigning livestock. So really important in terms of tracing those animal treatments as well when completing NVDs. The next requirement is around what you're feeding your livestock. So that could be just pasture and chemical use that you're putting on pasture, or it could be introduced feed as well. So if you're, again, using chemicals, full records that you can back up. So you've got backups and traceability records for your NVD declarations. And the second one is if you are introducing feed, that you're getting a commodity vendor declaration or similar to understand if there's any contamination risk in that food that you're bringing onto the property and feeding your livestock. And the fourth one around food safety is around preparing your livestock for dispatch, and it crosses over nicely in with animal welfare as well. So again, making sure that your livestock are fit to load, that you know what you're loading and you're cross-checking it for the completion of the NVD, that you've got good facilities, the truck's clean, all of that stuff around contamination physically as well, and making sure you've got your transporter details on that NVD. So all these things kind of talk to the food safety requirements at a high level for LPA, and all really, really important around supporting your National Vendor Declaration information. The next one I'll talk about is biosecurity within LPA. So biosecurity within LPA requires you to have a documented biosecurity plan. That's really important. So it's actually a common finding when we do audits where people don't have biosecurity plans. It's all relevant to your property, so making sure that it's relevant and applicable, and you can actually physically do the things in your plan, having it accessible to your staff if you have some, and really making sure that you're keeping a good eye on things is really key around your biosecurity plans. The next requirement in LPA is animal welfare. So animal welfare talks around the animal welfare standards and guidelines. So they're species specific. So there's one for cattle, one for sheep, and one for goats. You need to have an access to a copy of those. Ideally, you would have read them and have completed the LPA training module on animal welfare standards and guidelines as well, and put your staff through it. It's free to do and it's online. You can do it anytime and as many times as you like. It's very high level, but the outcome there is trying to maintain those animal welfare standards that Australia sets. And finally, the last requirement we'll talk about for LPA is around your livestock transactions and movements. So this is where we're talking around your NVD completion, record keeping, and NLIS requirements. So I like to break it into two different sections. So we've got livestock coming onto the property where you might be buying livestock in, and then when you're dispatching livestock or selling them on. So focusing in on buying livestock in, if you do that, making sure you're getting a copy of a National Vendor Declaration for those animals is really important, and keeping a copy of it while they're on your property and for afterwards as well, to make sure that you've got records of that when you don't go to consign them again is really important. Also, if you're buying in livestock, it's your responsibility to make sure that their movement on the NLIS database is recorded within 2 days of their arrival. So that's the legal requirement, and it's quite a common issue that we find isn't getting done as well. In terms of dispatching your livestock, so moving them off your property, you need to complete an NVD in full with all the records signed. Complete, accurate is the way to go. Also, making sure that your animals are identified with an NLIS tag before they leave your property. Also, again, legal requirement there to make sure that we're meeting all these requirements within LPA. And that's how it quite links nicely into NLIS as well, around that traceability requirement. Now, to labour the point, the key things around traceability, which we see, and it can get confusing. So when you're buying in livestock, you're the receiving party. It's your responsibility to update the database within 2 days of those animals arriving on your property. So it's really quite key. If you're not doing it yourself, you're using an agent or someone like that to really log in and check that the transfer's been done. And then if you're moving livestock off, making sure you're completing that NVD correctly as well. So really, really important to make sure that the receiver knows what they're getting. And just some tips on screen before we move on to NLIS a little bit further. Handwriting on the paper ones can be really hard to read, which makes it difficult to translate what it is that is the information that's required. Not signing things, not filling it out properly, answering questions twice or in a way that doesn't make sense really impacts compliance and slows things down for the supply chain. So we like to say that the NVD is faster and easier because it tidies up all of those handwriting issues. We have done lots of work, but the app's available, the web's available, it streamlines the form completion. You can share it in multiple ways, and it's securely stored. So you've always got access to the ones that you're receiving and the ones that you're sending all in one location. So ENVDs, clear, correct, and complete is the way to go. And we have loads of resources available to help you understand the app or the ENVD system, or if you need help, we can always help you out if you give us a call or an email as well. And if that wasn't too much information to handle in just a short amount of time, we do have loads of resources available for you. So fact sheets, checklists, a full record keeping book, there's templates out online, as well as you can order them through your LPA account as well if you prefer a paper copy. Now I'll talk briefly around your NLIS requirements, which is the other part of what ISC delivers. So the 3 key elements of the livestock or NLIS system, is the PICs that Cherie was talking about before, which you get from PIRSA. Then you also have your livestock tags that you buy from your retailer or online or whomever you buy them from. And then you have your recording those livestock movements in the NLIS database as well. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about tags and a little bit about transfers just to set the scene, and given sheep and goat eID has come in. Now, the requirements around applying NLIS devices to livestock. So before they move off the PIC is when they need to be applied under legislation. And that device needs to stay with the animal for its lifetime. That enables lifetime traceability. So when we go to move or transfer animals in the NLIS database, we're actually moving those tag numbers from PIC to PIC. So that's how we're getting that traceability. If a device does fall out, you can replace it. You can put in a post-breeder tag if it's no longer on the property it was born on. And it's handy if you do introduce livestock from other properties to keep post-breeder tags on hand as well. In terms of the colouring system, you've got the year of birth colours for sheep and goats, or yellow as the default. And you can buy those colours from your manufacturers or suppliers that you prefer. And then the colour for sheep and goats for post-breeder is pink. So that's always pink as well. For cattle, it's white for breeder and orange for post-breeder. So just keep that in mind in terms of the colouring system, which I'm sure Janice will talk about shortly. Another tip around animal identification, especially for sheep and goats. So the physical tag is the same as in the design, but they're actually coded specifically for the species. So if you do have sheep, you need to buy sheep tags and order sheep tags. And if you have goats, you need to order goat tags. There's a little trick. The manufacturers will actually laser print on your PIC onto the outside of the device and some other codes. So for sheep, there'll either be an S or a T printed on, and for goats, a K or an L. And this means that that's a goat tag or that's a sheep tag, and that's what it's flagged in the database as, so we know what's moving, whether it's a sheep or a goat. So just be really careful if you do have sheep and goats and you've got both, to keep an eye on what tags you're actually applying to make sure you've got the right ones on the right animals as well. In terms of the devices that are approved, we have a number of devices approved for sheep and goats that have electronic transponders or microchips inside of them. There's a couple of different types. There's single loop wraparounds, and we also have dual pin ones or a single pin. And there's a goat leg band as well just for goats though. Really have a look at your application instructions. Make sure you're using the right applicator and the pin is in the right position and that's sharp and in good condition. Application placement, application, like following the instructions is really important to get good retention. If you're having issues with retention, have a look at the type of tag you're using as well, because sometimes fencing or shrubs or vegetation can really impact what tag type is suitable for your operation. So really take a look at it and review. And if you're having issues, have a chat with your supplier, let ISC know. We're happy to have a chat as well, and really pick the right device that's suitable for your operation. And to wrap up, we've got recording of livestock movement. So as I mentioned before, when you buy your tags, that supplier will actually load all those tags into the database and put them on your PIC, so they're ready to go, and you can pop them onto your animals, and that's all you need to do in terms of tagging, and then the tags then can move from PIC to PIC. So if you don't have one, really jump on and create an NLIS account and have a play around. You can't break the system. It's easy the more you do it. And just a reminder there that if you are receiving the livestock, you're responsible for doing that transfer. And so if you're selling to a sale yard or to a feedlot or to a processor, they'll do that movement because they're the receiving party. And just keep in mind that if you're buying from, say, Auctions Plus or Facebook or Gumtree or something that's not a public auction, the agents won't do those transfers for you. So you have to jump on and do them yourself. So really keep that in mind as well. If you do use an agent or a third party, ask for the upload ID, which George will show you when he does his demo, which will really make sure that they've done that transfer and you can actually look it up and check that it's right. The other key thing is if you're doing transfers, to record the serial number that's listed on your national vendor declaration that you've received when you've gotten those livestock, and that links the NLIS record with the NVD record, and really makes that traceability system all the more robust. So they're the key things around recording livestock movements in the NLIS. And that is all I have for you tonight, but George is now going to take over and show you how to do some key functions in the NLIS database, which is always a fun time. So George, over to you.
Thank you. Share my screen. Welcome everybody. My name is George. I've been working with NLIS since its inception back in 1999, and going to show you a few things about NLIS. We made a change a few years ago when we introduced a thing called My MLA. It's just a way to log into all of your products. So we're going to log into NLIS today via My MLA. So we can go to the homepage, nlis.com.au, log in via My MLA. The beauty about this is it enables you to put all your accounts, your LPA, your MSA, NLIS, ENVD, all the accounts together. It's just an email address and the password when you first get set up. So I can link, these are all the services I have linked: my LPA account, my NLIS account, ENVD, and my feedback. Today we'll just go through NLIS. So that's the big advantage of having My MLA. You don't have to remember all your different passwords after the first time you've logged in and linked them all together. So you just click on Link More, and then you can link all your other services. Today we'll go to NLIS. I continue to NLIS. These are my two NLIS accounts I've got linked. Today we'll go through the producer account. This is my test account, what I use to demonstrate. So log in. And that takes us to the home page. And up here it's got the producer homepage. And up here we have a help button. Click on the help. Click on help tools. We have a long list of help tools if you're working on sheep individual. That is eID for sheep. Some of these are old, but they're still valid and they're still in use. And we are going to update a lot of these. So there's a whole heap of different tech tips you can use that'll help you run reports or upload data. Just click on them and just open up. Go back home. The first thing I do is I click on this hide header, especially if I'm doing a demonstration, because it gives us more real estate to play with. It just hides all this blue stuff. Click on hide header. And first thing you need to do is make sure that your details are up to date. When you interact with NLIS, we notify you. Every time you do an upload or someone does an upload with devices on your property, you get notified. So click on this change. It allows you to update your email address. The other thing you need to do is click on I want to work with, and they're all your different species. If you want to add sheep individual, if you don't have that on your list, from this homepage, I want to click on that, change my types of livestock. The very first thing, click go. And you can say, I'm not working on goats, I'm more working on cattle. So you can untick cattle. You no longer have cattle, or if you put in eID in your sheep and goats, you tick on that sheep eID, sheep individual, which is the eID. That's how you change or add your species. But today we're going to go through a quick demo on how we transfer livestock. And as Elizabeth mentioned, it's your responsibility to notify the database if you have animals coming onto your PIC, your property. So the first thing we click on is I want to, and these are the change in your account details. This bit here, under the heading notify the database of, are making changes. So if an animal dies on your property, you can set that to deceased. If your tags have fallen out, you can set those tags to inactive using device status. today we're just going to go through livestock moved onto my property. Once again, it's your responsibility to do this. Don't rely on anyone else who says they may do it, and I'll show you how you can see if they've done it. The first thing Elizabeth said was, or one of the things Elizabeth said was, there'll be an upload ID, but we'll check that later. So I want to record livestock moved onto my property. Click go. And SA camelids, for those who aren't involved in the industry, are your South American camelids, which are your llamas and alpacas. So the easiest way to do it is to type it in on screen. So I want to type in the details manually on screen, click on this. And there are 6 pieces of information you need to put in. For those who've used this for cattle, there's 5. So we've got an extra field, which is this number head. I'll go for that when I get to it. So I've already copied the tags. Now you can either get the visual number, that's the number printed on the outside of the tag, one of the slides that Elizabeth showed you with those different coloured tags. So there's a number printed on the tag, and the S, as she pointed out, is your sheep tag. And this is what the visual, so the RFID or the electronic number looks like. It's just numbers. There's 3 numbers, there's a space, followed by 12 numbers. So we put the tag numbers in. Where they move into, this is your property. A majority will only have 1 pick. In my case here, I've got 2. So they're moving on to my second property, which is this QDZZ3333. This is my test pick. Where are they coming from? QBZZ2222. That's where they're going from. Label number. Let's make a number up. They're moving today. And there's 20 head. There's not 20 tags here. And this is the purpose for the number of head. So there's only 10 tags or 10 animals with a tag in the ear that are moved on. However, there were 10 other sheep that moved onto my property that did not have a tag. And that's because in the initial stages, where you only have to tag lambs born after 1 January 2025, you may have a mixed lot of sheep, mixed flock of sheep. Some are tagged, some are untagged. So this identifies that 20 moved on, but only 10 have a tag. Click continue. Confirming this is what you're doing. You're moving to this pick, from this pick, with that NVD serial number, the date, number ahead, the tag numbers down here, and we hit send. That's now going to the database. Once again, the upload ID that was mentioned before. So if an agent does it on your behalf, or if the seller does it on your behalf, and it's not their responsibility, but sometimes they do it. So if the seller does it on your behalf, ask them for this upload ID. This particular upload is unique in that it actually breaks into 2. Breaks for the 10 tags and then a mob of 20. So you keep that as a record. And then we go down here and go view my transaction history. This is going to show us what I've done on the system today. So I click on this. From the 25th to 25th, so what's happened today. And I uploaded this file and it split it into 2. So that's the file. I've got a warning and a complete. If I click on what this warning is, and this is saying that the animal was not on the animal is EU eligible to be transferred to an EU pick. So it's a warning. It's not a problem in the sense that it has been transferred. However, it's gone on to a property, an EU pick when it shouldn't have. So part of the EU rules, the ball has got to be EU accredited. But as a warning, it says that it's gone through, so not an issue. And that's the simple process of uploading a file. and checking using your upload ID. And you would also receive an email with these details. So click on home again. Next thing we're going to look at is how do we check? So if you've bought animals through a sale yard or through an agent and they've told you they've done the transfer, you want to check. Or you sold animals and you want to check that they've gone out of your property, the person who's received them has done the transfer. Or if the agent said they've done the transfer for you, you want to double check. So I want to go down to the report section now. View generate all reports. Oh, sorry, view generate all reports. There we go. It takes you to a list of all the reports available for your account. So we're going to look at livestock that's transferred onto my property, onto PIC. Look at what's moved on through this PIC, which we just did the transfer for today. And there's a list of tags. There are the sheep tags. That was the NVD number we used. 4001123. So that was it. And this is the proof that you have done the transfer. Very simple, very quick. Once again, to reiterate what Elizabeth said earlier, you can have a play. You're not going to kill the system. You can go in there and say what's moved on in the last month. More. So play with it. You can always confirm and check that animals are moved off in the same way, just by clicking on what's moved off the property. So I'll go back home and back to this page. This time we'll check a few more reports, so view generated reports. And the one that we get asked, probably the second most run query for us from a producer level, is this one here. Devices purchased. So what tags have I bought from my tag manufacturer? We'll go back for 12 months. This will give us the list of all the tags. And what people normally do is they copy and paste the tag numbers and put that into their software system. It's called the tag bucket file. Most people know it as the tag bucket file. Normally not this low, but as it always goes when you're doing a demo, it always runs slower. So I'll show you how you how you export the data and use it into your tag bucket file. Some of you will be running software, and this could be for your sheep, for your cattle, it doesn't really matter, but you just download the data and use it to manage your livestock. Well, while that's running, I'll run on another one on the side. I said that was a very popular report. The most popular report we have is search the PIC register. I've just logged in a separate browser using my Chrome now. Search the PIC register. This is the PIC that I just used. It tells me, again, my account, this is my details. So if you receive a notification, say an animal came on your property from another PIC, or it moved off it onto a PIC, and you want to know who that PIC is, who that PIC owner is, could be your neighbour, you type in this report called search the PIC register, type in the PIC, and you can hit go. You can use other tools parameters to find it. This is our #1 most run report. I'll run the same report off this one. Livestock transferred, devices purchased. All the tags I bought in the last 12 months. And this one's going to be slow as well. hopefully it'll come up soon, but that's all I was going to show you. Then how to export the data, but the report's still running. Shut that one. There were 1,000 tags. There were 1,000 tags put on this, which shouldn't make it this slow. I mean, we actually did a webinar last night, and the whole process, when I ran this, only took 3 or 4 seconds. Not sure, Sharif, if you want to take over, and then I can show them when it comes back up.
Thanks, George. I was thinking, you showed us the manual upload of the tag numbers. Do you think you could just talk everyone through? I don't know if you can do it because your system's trying to produce that report, but can you talk about the way you could do it through a file upload?
So in a file, you open up Excel and you just put the exact same fields. So you put the tags in, remember there were 6 fields. So you put the same data in Excel in column number 1. You put the tag numbers, column number 2, where the tags are coming from, or the animals are coming from. In the 3rd column, where they're going to. So just the pick, from pick, the to pick, the NVD, the serial number, and then the number of head in the last column. It's just an Excel spreadsheet.
And what about if you could maybe just explain how people get that Excel spreadsheet with the tags?
They just open up Excel like this. Paste those 10 tags.
And they get that through their reader.
Yeah. Again, I read these. I eyeballed the animals with this, and these I got via a scanner.
Right. So those numbers, they came to you through the scanner and you just copied them into an Excel spreadsheet.
You just type in the tag. Sorry, the pick number. Like we did before. The serial number. The date they moved. Now you can see why it's so much easier just do it online. You save that and you upload that. Where it had before, where it was a manual, you actually do it just below it, upload a file.
Yeah, we can link resources into the the pack that'll come out that'll have the guides on how to do both those methods. So
yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with this report, but
still trying to process. It's a lot of tags.
Yep. I mean, there's only 1,000 tags, so it shouldn't take that long. I mean, we did the demo yesterday, or didn't do a demo, sorry, we did a webinar yesterday with Tasmania.
Tasmania. Okay.
So that's it.
So I think that sounds really good, George. Thank you very much for stepping us through all of that. And the recording will come out so everyone can retrace George's steps in that.
And we'll insert in the recording, we'll insert what the upload looks like.
Hang on. Before you go, George, there's a question. What happens if the system drops out while recording? It's a question that's come in.
So you would look at the upload, so you go to your transaction history, and you look for like we showed you before, go to your transaction history, view my transaction history, and you have a look to see if that upload was successful.
Okay.
And if it's not there, then you re-upload the file.
Then you what, sorry?
re-upload the file. So you start
Okay.
again. So
Yeah.
if it wasn't there, then you just start again.
Okay. All right, George. Look, thanks very much for that. I think we might move on now to Denise
Just
to
give
take.
you 5 seconds. It may be ready, like may have corrected itself.
Yep.
If you want. If it doesn't come up in a few seconds, then we'll leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't come up after 4 or 5 seconds, then we'll leave it.
Yep.
No. No, we can leave it.
All right. Thank you very much, George, for that demonstration. I'll now pass over to Denise, Denise Rendell from SA. She's going to take you through specific info to do with sheep and goat eID implementation. So over to you, Denise.
Thanks, Cherie. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for taking the time out to attend this webinar. I'm just going to briefly just go over some of the implementation timelines for South Australia, and these are actually very similar to most states within Australia. So as of January 1, 2025, there are going to be a number of things happening in South Australia. So firstly, all sheep and farm goats born after that date will actually need to be tagged with an electronic ID tag before they leave the property of birth. Then it's also the same date that processors will start scanning eID tags and recording the transfers on the NLIS database. And when for property to property movements, the tags will need to be scanned in any consignments that you receive and transferred on the NLIS database. So it's very important that you realise that these dates are approaching and take appropriate action. There will be a slight delay though in that sale yards won't be commencing scanning until 1st of July 2025 and doing all of the transfers on the NLIS database. But at the moment we are on track to achieve all of those dates for scanning and uploading for the sale yards. And then the next important date is January 1, 2027, when basically we have finalised everything. Everything that moves off a property will now have to have an electronic ID tag. So it doesn't matter how old or how young, if it leaves its property, then it must have an electronic tag in its ear. And if the animal is an animal that was born before 1 January 2025 and has only got a visual tag in its ear, it will have to have an electronic tag actually put in place as well. So next slide. So I'm just going to go over what producers' responsibilities are, because this is really important. This is the thing that brings most people unstuck. So the change to eID isn't actually changing the responsibilities of people. It just changes some of the information that you actually put onto the database, because now you're going to be putting on, of course, the individual ID numbers of all of the animals that you purchase in. The other thing is that, as I said, it will be changing the information you're recording. So you're actually adding not just the NVD number, the date the movement occurs, the from pick, the to pick, but you'll also be adding an individual tag number as well. So that's really important to remember. The other thing is that as a producer, you're responsible to scan and record the animal movements when it's a property to property movement. So when you're receiving animals directly from another property, including if you have 2 or more properties yourself, and you move sheep or goat or farm goats between them. If you buy from an online auction, such as Auctions Plus or Farmgate, or through other channels such as Gumtree, and Facebook. And if you move to and from an adjustment property. So those circumstances mean that you will need to do something as well. What many producers don't realise that in these situations, your stock agent, if they're involved, is actually not legally responsible for scanning and recording these movements. However, they may do it on your behalf. But if that is something that you really need to negotiate with them before you probably either purchase or before the animals arrive. So if you can do that, that would be great. So next slide. So in this state, there is actually a considerable amount of money that has been made available to fund support for producers. And the majority of that funding is actually in a tag discount or rebate. So last year there was a rebate of 95 cents per NLIS accredited eID tag for the sky blue tags for 2023. And that was rebated by directly contacting the State Department. Applications for those closed on the 30th of April of this year. But there are now, instead of that, there are point of sale discounts. So at the moment, we've got a point of sale discount for black electronic tags, and that's available from the 1st of January 2024 to the 31st of December 2024. And so when you go to a reseller, you will automatically get that taken off if you purchase black electronic tags. And in 2025, from the 1st of January 25 to the 30th of June 25, there will also be a point of sale discount for white electronic tags. Recently, though, we expanded the rebate. And so the colours that weren't covered in these point of sale discounts or last year's rebate are now being covered, but you will need to apply directly to PIRSA. This won't be taken off at the reseller end. It's something you will need to apply for. So you'll need to look for the details on our PIRSA website for that. Please bear in mind that for all of the tags that we're rebating and discount, it is actually to make sure that you don't have to double tag in 2027. So it is aimed at animals that are being kept beyond January 1, 2027 that were born prior to January 1, 2025. And as of earlier this week, just over 2.6 million tags have been purchased since January 1, 2024. So next. What about equipment? There will be rebates for essential equipment. We've already got guidelines and applications out to the sale yards and abattoirs, and we will release guidelines for producers, agents and show societies. It will be a rebate of 75% or a grant for 75% for essential infrastructure. But as I said, point out this is for essential infrastructure, and we will release those guidelines shortly. And that's probably about it for that side. Next. So if you've got any questions about the rebates, please make us aware of them. If you scan that QR code, that'll actually take you to our PIRSA website where there's further information about the rebates that are available to you as a producer. And there are some contact details for myself and my colleague Tara Vanderloor as we're involved in the eID program being rolled out. I think that would be it, Sheree.
Okay, lovely. Thanks very much, Denise. That was excellent. Thank you. That's taken us up to the end of the webinar. As mentioned at the beginning, this is all being recorded and it will all be emailed out to you in the coming days with the questions and the answer transcript, plus a range of resources to help. Our contact details are there on the screen, and I would encourage anyone who's got any questions or having issues with the NLIS transfers and the demonstrations and you're just not sure, to please get in touch with us, and we've got a team of people that can help you with those queries and support you in that process. So there should be a survey dropped into our chat that we would, if you've got a moment to fill in, we would really appreciate that to get your feedback, and that helps us, work out what we can do next time differently, or if there's any other topics you'd love to hear from us about, we'd love to do that. So if you could fill that in, there's our contact details. Keep your eye out for all the resources from this evening, and yeah, get in touch if you need any further information. But thank you all for joining and taking the time to watch our webinar. We really appreciate it, and thanks to all our guests, all our panelists tonight, and everyone answering the questions. Really appreciate that. Okay, thank you all, and good night.